I'm really grateful that the company stood by me and they rose to the occasion, and we have a hit show on our hands. The previous director was a heterosexual director, and I think that he saw the show through one vision, but my mind was like, I want to bring the most fabulous version of this show to life on stage. I posted about some of the things that happen online because I think that sometimes, like for me, it has helped me to remind people that I'm a human being because
Yeah.
I have such a hard exterior that sometimes I think that people are like, he can take it. It's fine. Like he's somebody that the internet has deemed it's safe to make fun of. It doesn't feel great, but I'm honestly okay. And I have to accept my responsibility in the parts that I've played to create the narrative that exists. You could be queer and still be transphobic. You can be queer and still be closed-minded about,
Yeah.
the non-binary movement. And I think that sometimes even people who are our friends, our family members, our loved ones, they don't understand our life. They're like, yeah, but I don't understand why someone has to live their life that way. I'm cool with the gays, but I don't get this part. This part's frustrating to me. And so I do like that we shine a light on that in the show, because I think you can be an advocate but be ignorant at the same time. I will just say that there is a long history with that song and the writers and the producer and creator of Burlesque, and that conversation has and had nothing to do with me.
So it's such an honor to be able to chat to you again, Todrick. Last time we spoke, you were in Shrek, and now everyone's talking about Burlesque. You've had quite the journey with the show. For listeners who might not be familiar, could you share how you initially became involved and then later took to the director's chair for the West End?
Yeah, so some producers reached out to me saying that Burlesque the Musical was going to be coming to maybe the West End or Broadway, and like 3 years ago, kind of freshly after the pandemic. And so I said, sure. They said they would like for me to write some music, that they listened to my album Straight Out of Oz and they thought I'd be a great addition to the team. So I said, sure. I started writing songs for the show, and my partner at the time, like I went in to record the song Big, that my character Sean sings. And when I recorded the demo, he was like, mark my words, they're gonna ask you to play this role after they hear this demo. And I was like, whatever, they're not gonna ask me. And within hours after they got the demo, I had an offer to come and originate the role of Sean. So I did the role of Sean in Manchester and Glasgow last year. And then this year, we were supposed to open originally in September. We ended up getting the Savoy because the show that was in there was going to be leaving a little bit earlier than expected. They had like a 8-week window in between that show and their next project. And so they moved us up, and the producers needed a director. I was trying to help them get other directors, and people weren't available in the amount of time that they had. And so they said, you know what? Honestly, Podrick is probably the person we would trust the most to direct and choreograph it. And so I ended up getting an offer to not only be in the show as an actor and composer, but to direct and choreograph as well, which is insane.
Yeah, I saw the show in Manchester, and then now under your direction, it's quite different.
Yeah.
What vision did you bring to the show when you stepped into the director's chair? And how was it for you, like changing it up and making it more of what you had in mind?
I hope that this isn't problematic to say, but I just think that I bring a queer eye to this project,
Yeah.
and almost every queer icon that we love, from Cher to Madonna to Beyonce to Britney to the new girls, the Tate McRae's and Sabrina Carpenters of the world. I feel like most of those girls live, breathe, and die on their gay group of people who help them with their hair, their costumes, their choreography, their branding. The vision that comes to life for these women is mostly through the eyes of gay men. So I think that the previous director was a heterosexual director, and I think that he saw the show through one vision, but my mind was like, I want to bring the most fabulous version of this show to life on stage. And I want you to not only fall in love with the lead characters, but the characters that that are surrounding those lead characters, much like a Pitch Perfect or a lot of the movies that we watched growing up in High School
Yeah.
Musical. We love Troy and Gabriella, but we love the people around them as well that also play a huge part in painting the picture. And I think that For me, for the audience to root for you to save the club, they have to care about not just the four walls that build the club, but the people who live in that within those four walls, who call that place home, whose lives would be altered tremendously if the club isn't saved. And so I don't think that our show is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm really happy with the version of the show that we're doing, and the audience is loving it, eating it up, standing ovations every night, sold out. And I'm really proud of myself, to be honest, for this being my first shot time directing, my directorial debut, my first time going through a tech period. It was just a journey, a roller coaster, and but it's always been my dream to direct and choreograph.
Yeah.
So I'm just really grateful I got the opportunity.
And you wear so many hats in this production as well, performing, directing, choreographing, and co-songwriter as well. How do you balance all those different roles, and which one do you think brings you the most joy?
I think honestly, while I love choreography and directing, I think that writing music is so special because the music informs the actors and helps tell the story and helps the story progress, and it helps the choreographer know what to do. When you hear certain types of music that are, have a dramatic flair to them in the way that they're composed, that tells the choreographer what to do. So I think that music is the one thing that is, it's not the one thing because everything um every form of artistry, you can put your own stamp and fingerprint on it. But music, there's something really fascinating about the fact that people who compose music, their experiences are shaped by what they've experienced in the world. And nobody would be able to write the song that I would write. And I would never be able to write the song that you would write because our brains
Hmm.
just think and hear music and lyricism and melodies and all of it differently. So that's the part that I think I enjoy the most, coming up with a song in a shower and then watching it go from a concept to a fully realized song that people are singing back to us and adding to their audition books and stuff like that. That has to be my favorite part of it all.
And the show constantly evolves as well with topical references. I know you made jokes about the Coldplay concert couple, and last year in Manchester, you were talking about baby reindeer. So, how do you
Yeah.
decide what jokes to include, and how often do you refresh them as well?
I'm really grateful that Stephen Anton has given my character, Sean, because Sean is the only character that can really break the fourth wall. And the show is set in 2025. So I just think that the jokes that he'd be making and his fashion sense and everyone should be based on what's happening in the here and now. So when something happens that's really, really relevant and viral, I always try to say, like, how can I take what's popular and buzzworthy on TikTok and put it into the show. And sometimes it doesn't work, by the way. Sometimes my algorithm is so specific to me that the
Yeah.
audience of the people who buy tickets to the show don't really know what's going on. Um, but it's a really fun device to be able to use to make the show fresh. And I think the audience loves when they come and see it one month and the next month it's a completely different joke. But I just keep my eyes and ears open to see what's happening in pop culture and in mainstream media and try to find out if there's any way that it can be infused into the world of burlesque.
That's great. And I know you've been enjoying going to see so many different shows while you've been in London as well. I know you're a huge fan of Evita. And what does that production mean to you when you saw Rachel Zegler and the cast in that show?
I just was blown away by the spectacle of it all. I have to be honest, I didn't know the story of Evita when I went to go see the show, and I
Me
still didn't know
neither.
it when I
Yeah.
left. But I enjoyed Rachel's performance. I enjoyed the choreography. I enjoyed the staging. I enjoyed the lighting. I think that Andrew Lloyd Webber doesn't really know how to make a bad score, even though Bad Cinderella wasn't considered a hit. The music in that show is still beautiful, and so I really enjoyed, and the Palladium was one of the first places I ever performed when I came to London. So just to be back in that theater that has such a rich history and feels so elegant and epic and iconic, that just in and of itself makes the experience of going to Evita worthwhile.
Absolutely. Yeah, that must have been so special for you. I know
But the
you've
show I'm obsessed with, by the way, is Benjamin Button. I can't rave enough about that show. I've been 4 times. I plan on going another, like, 7 times before it closes in October.
Yeah, I was
I
just
can't.
going to ask you about that. But yeah, it's such a great show. And it's lovely that you've shown it so much love as well, because I know it's closing in October.
Mhm. Yeah. I just think it's one of my favorite shows. My partner and I have seen 200 plus shows together, or close to like 160 shows together. That's one of my favorite shows I've ever seen, and it gets better every time I go see it. It's just so great, and the reason I felt like going to social media is because I was finding it hard to get convince my friends to go because there's nothing sexy about the title of Benjamin Button. But when you go, once you're in the seat, the hardest part is getting people in the seat. I don't think that it's hard to get people to sing its praises and stuff. If you're a fan of love, if you are a human being and love stories about humanity, it's just hard for you to go to that show if you've ever lost someone, if you've ever loved someone, and not be swept away by it. It's just truly incredible. I can't sing its praises enough. If you are listening to this and you're in London, please get tickets to Burlesque. That's the reason why we're here. But another piece of really magical theater that is completely like, like the yin to burlesque yang. Like they couldn't be any different from each other.
Hmm.
But Benjamin Button is so incredible. I love it.
I know you've had quite a difficult ride with being part of Burlesque, especially
Mhm.
this time in the West End, but how does going to see those other shows just help you to escape from all of the noise that's been directed at you online?
Well, I would just say that it feels like a first world problem for me, even sometimes when I'm like, this has been a difficult ride. Like, I'm being taken care of. They put me in a beautiful apartment. I'm making great money. I'm getting to make people laugh every day on stage. There's a lot more to focus on that's positive. I posted about some of the things that happen online because I think that sometimes, like, for me, it has helped me to remind people that I'm a human being because
Yeah,
I have such a hard exterior that sometimes I think that people are like, he can take it. It's fine. Like he's somebody that the internet has deemed it's safe to make fun of. It doesn't feel great, but I'm honestly okay. And I have to accept my responsibility in the parts that I've played to create the narrative that exists. And I also have to understand that if you're doing big things and if you're doing great things, like you're never really made fun of or ridiculed by somebody who's doing more than you. There are a lot of people who find joy in going online and being able to it makes them feel better to be able to
yeah,
go and bring someone down, and it's just like a human thing that happens, and I'm trying to work on every day being a better version of myself and allowing those things that I see and hear and read about and am told about online to affect me less. But to answer your question, for a lot of reasons that have to do with a lot of things that are going on in my life, not just the journey that burlesque has been, but my personal life, my love life, my just everything. Benjamin Button has been like a form of therapy, and like I'm not a religious person anymore right now in this chapter of my life. I don't find religion to be
hmm,
a safe haven for me. So going to the theater is a form of like relaxing. It's the only time that I completely turn off my devices and am swept away by some form of theater. And for me, and button has I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's been a form of therapy for me. Every time I come out of the theater, I'm more excited to do my show. I'm inspired to work on my other shows that I'm working on. It just, for me, has been like a life-changing theatrical experience, and I'm a theater nerd to the core, and it's been a long time since I've seen something that's excited me as much as that show has. And a lot of people are saying that about Burlesque. The comments have been like, "It's been a really long time since I've seen a show that made me have this much fun." And at a time right now where the world is like arguably more divided than it's been in our lifetimes. It's nice to be able to go see a theater that serves as a form of escapism where people can come in and be like, I laughed, I cried. It is so sexy. Our cast is just absolutely gorgeous. All of them in all the different shapes and sizes and colors that we come in. There's so much diversity and authentic representation. It doesn't feel to me crowbarred in. There's a lot of storylines that are really real. And there's even a storyline about Tess being a little bit closed minded as somebody who is an advocate of the queer community, which some people people question, but I think it's really important to point a finger in 2025 at the fact that you could be queer and still be transphobic. You can be queer and still be closed-minded about,
Yeah.
the non-binary movement. And I think that sometimes even people who are our friends, our family members, our loved ones, they don't understand our life. They're like, "Yeah, but I don't understand why someone has to live their life that way. I'm cool with the gays, but I don't get this part. This part's frustrating to me." And so I do like that we shine a light on that, in the show, because I think you can be an advocate, but be ignorant at the same time. So, and I think that it's important for us as our families, especially chosen families, to educate people because guess what? It's not going to stop at trans people and non-binary people or whatever. There will probably being queer will evolve into something else. And we, as the old heads that have been around for 40 years that only knew LGBT as it, there was no LGBTQ plus,
Mhm.
like there's going to be some new letters of the alphabet added on, and we need people to wake us up and explain to us that even though it's not something that we're used to, it's something that people feel is necessary. It's a lane that people feel like that need a box that needs to be checked, a lane that needs to be like acknowledged, an existence that needs to be respected, and we all gotta like change our ways and continue to evolve. And that's what I like about that storyline in the show.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important that, I mean, you're always so honest and you use your platforms for so much good. And I think it's been really refreshing how open you've been about this journey that you've been on over the recent months. Can you share with me what it was like navigating those opening weeks and how the company as a whole pulled together to put on such a brilliant show that's been so well reviewed as well?
I think that it was so tough because I think the first time you do anything, it's tough. I was offered an opportunity to direct a movie for a huge franchise once, and I was so afraid, and I was like, I'm not a movie director. And then after I turned that opportunity down, thinking another opportunity like that would come, the opportunity didn't come. And I looked at myself and said, Todrick, it's not for you to turn down this job because you don't think that you're qualified. Nobody is a
Hmm.
movie director until they are. John Chu had never directed a film until he had. Like by definition, you're gonna start and not be as great at something, and if you continue to learn and grow and take notes and better yourself, you'll be great at it. So I'm so grateful that the cast and team was like as patient as they could be with me with like walking me through my first time sitting on the opposite side of the table and also wearing 4 hats and realizing I had to go on stage at the last minute and step into my role. And shout out to Idris, who's my cover because he's my standby, because he did all of the rehearsals so that I could sit down and watch and take notes. He was Sean for every rehearsal. And without him and without someone in that position, the show wouldn't have been
Yeah.
possible. So it was a really, really challenging thing, but I have to say, if I can make it through putting together Burlesque in the 6 weeks that we had, I only found out about 8 weeks before we started rehearsal that I was gonna do it, so there wasn't a lot of time to change and shift, and what we should have had the opportunity to do an out of town tryout of this version of Burlesque, but the stakes were so high, we had to go straight into a West End production of a show that is essentially minus 4 or 5 songs, like a completely different page one rewrite from top to
Hmm.
bottom. Like the fact that that was able to be accomplished is a tremendous like achievement, and I'm really grateful that the company stood by me and they rose to the occasion, and we have a hit show on our hands, and I'm really grateful, and I'm excited about the next time I get the opportunity to wear a director choreographer hat because I've learned so much from this experience.
Yeah, you must have learned so much. And I wanted to talk to you about the rewrite that the show's gone through. I know there was a lot of conversation about the inclusion of You Haven't Seen the Last of Me being
Hmm.
in, then out, and then back in the show. Can you
Hmm.
share some insight into those decisions and how that all happened?
I'm a person that talks a lot, and I think that I I will just say that there's a long history with that song and the writers and the producer and creator of Burlesque, and that conversation has and had nothing to do with me.
Okay, that's fair enough. It must have been incredible seeing Jess Foley make her West End debut as well, and her performance must have evolved so much,
She has
being both a
evolved so much.
songwriter and performer.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you. She is incredible. She is like a true, like an incredible person. I could go on and on and on. There was a time that my family's house burned down, and my fans were like, "You should put up a GoFundMe because we want to help you." And the first amount of money that came in was from Jess Foley. And Jess Foley is not a millionaire by any stretch of the imagination. She is an upcoming artist, and when I think about her and what a kind soul she is, that's the first thing I think about is that she is always reaching out to people and like just sending kind words that are so
Yeah.
authentic and genuine. And that it's just like that doesn't even scratch the surface of her voice and her talent and her gift. Like, let's not sleep on the voice is great, fantastic, superb, one of the best that I've heard in live theater ever. And the consistency and the technique is inspiring. I'm like, I want to go to voice lessons so I can be half as great of a technician as Jess Foley is. But we can't sleep on the fact that she's an incredible dancer as well. Like she's a really, really great dancer. She learns really quick. She's the consummate professional. When you give her a note, she's like, "Yep, absolutely." If she has a question or like is like having friction with that note, the way that she approaches it is just a director's dream. Anybody would be like lucky to have her in the room. And it's been awesome to watch her and her family and her growth and her open-mindedness and her, like she's just such we were talking about Big Brother and who we would kick off first. And I was like, in American Big Brother, we kicked off the people who were the most likable first because they would
Yeah.
win. And we were thinking about who was one of the most likable people. And we're like, Jess Foley has to go because everybody loves her. She doesn't have a single enemy. And she's just an incredible person. So to watch her get to make her West End debut after what has been a long 3 years of being involved in so many different iterations of the show was just amazing.
What's been your favourite moment or audience reaction to Burlesque so far in London? You must get to see it from both sides as well throughout the show.
I think that the night that Christina came to the show was just such a magical thing. It was like the energy of the cast was so exciting. Like, American actors and performers, singers, dancers don't oftentimes come to have like such intimate experiences with the cast of shows because usually they originate on Broadway. So like then when it comes here, it's like this is the second, like we're remounting a production that has happened in New York. But for it to be originating here and for Christina to come and spend her intimate time with the cast and come backstage and talk to us and take pictures with everyone, it felt so meta because usually it's a performer that is an artist that believes in a project, so they're investing in it. But Christina Aguilera is burlesque. She and Cher are that film, and she is the soundtrack to it. She, very similarly to Jess, like wrote the music that she was going to be singing in the film, and Jess wrote
Hmm.
the original song that she sings in this show. So there was just something so like meta. It felt like I was in a Black Mirror episode. The audience was losing their minds because they were all like insane fans of burlesque. They were freaking out and screaming, and to just be able to see Christina Aguilera, who by the way is gorgeous, obviously in real on film and on television and magazines, but in person, it just is like jaw dropping how stunning she is and tiny. She is literally like this big, that tall, and it was just really, really cool. That's one of those core memories that I'll never forget. And I think most of the people in the cast will talk about that. We were like, if the show ended tomorrow, we would all be more than satisfied because it was just such a tremendous energy in the room from everyone.
I can imagine it. I saw the video on Instagram and it looked incredible. So, yeah, that must have
Yeah.
been so exciting. In
Yeah.
your statement that you posted on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned the importance of the theatre community standing together. I wondered
Yeah.
what changes you might like to see in how we discuss and critique theatre. I know Burlesque has had some amazing reviews as well, but from your point of view, I know you've championed a lot of critics that use social media primarily rather than traditional print media as well?
Yeah, I think that like we should criticize theater. I think that there should be people reviewing it, and I think that theater as an art form has kind of like gone downhill in the past like decade or so because everybody is just making movie musicals and
Yeah.
jukebox musicals, which burlesque would fall into that category in a sense. But I really applaud the producers and the creators of burlesque for allowing there to be so much original music. 90% of the music is original, and that's exciting to me as a theater lover. But I would just say that theater used to be such a safe space because at the core of theater, like everyone that is most of the people that I know who love theater started out as a theater nerd. They were outcast,
Hmm.
they were misunderstood, they were ostracized from their communities. And so I think people found theater to be such a safe haven. And when I started getting on social media and seeing the way that people responded on Twitter, which is now X, and on TikTok and Reddit and all these things, I always loved the fact that you could go to Broadway World or Playbill.com or What's on Stage and you would see positivity and people championing theater for just existing. And now to produce a successful show and to have a long run is harder than it's ever been. It's so insanely
Yeah.
expensive. And the last thing that we need is people getting online and almost in a sense like for clicks and views rooting for something to fail because we all know that a car crash causes traffic and people will just drive by if everything's normal. People love to focus on something that's negative, a casting that they don't like, a casting decision they don't like, a direction that they don't like, a musical that they wish wasn't there. And I think that when you're doing that, you have to remember that the internet has a very powerful presence. And if you get 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 likes and views on a video, that's 200,000 people who might not buy a ticket to
Yeah.
go see a show because of something that you said. I think going to a first preview and casting judgment, which I saw happen with Smash and with Betty Boop, and these are all shows that should have a preview period in order for them to like be able to like adjust what needs to be adjusted for
Absolutely.
it to be
Yeah.
ready to be received by an audience. And I'm not saying that the reviews on TikTok could have saved or changed the demise of or the outcome of what happened with Boop and Smash. I think that the writing is on the wall, not just for those two shows, but for most shows because it's just a really difficult climate. But I don't think that it helps. And I think that people should just remember who the theater kid inside them that made them want to get involved in theater and just really try to like realize that they're people that you're talking about when you're talking about if if you didn't think someone brought a character to life and they could have done something better. I think an amount of constructive criticism is great. I think Mickey Joe Theater does a really great job at that usually. I
Yeah,
think sometimes it can verge
definitely.
on being like a little harsh sometimes. But I think for the most part, his criticism is constructive. I think there are people though that like to get on and trash directors, choreographers, actors, which oftentimes don't really have that much control over the way that their character is being presented because oftentimes it's the direction that causes actors to not, to I just think that we could just be kinder to each other. And I think that we could just be acknowledging that I don't ever want theater to be considered a dying art form. And I would love for people to be championing the fact that there is a show that exists that people are coming to and that theater exists to begin with is just a great win. And when you're making the comments, understand that some people will listen to it and not buy tickets to see that show to judge it for themselves and when people don't buy tickets, jobs are lost, and that means everybody, not just the actors, but the creatives, the people who work in the theater in costumes and wigs, and all of the creatives that come together. There's usually 100 plus people that are working on the
Yeah.
show whose job is lost when a show closes. So if we can try to highlight the positives of musicals as well as highlighting the things that could be worked on, I think that it would be a better safe space for everybody involved and not be so detrimental because sometimes if people have limited income, if they see that a show's not great, they're like, okay, I'll just go see Six or Wicked again because I know what I'm getting and this is a risk. And so on social media told me that they hated it,
Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What's next for you after Burlesque? Are you working on new music or are you going into another show?
I'm so inspired because there's a lot of things I think that burlesque may have another life somewhere else. Can't say just yet. And that's really exciting to me. But also, I'm working on a new musical an original musical that I'm writing that I love. I'm going to be, I believe, doing that musical in November here, and it's going to be the first time a live audience will be able to purchase tickets to come and watch our workshop presentation. So, if you're somebody who loves the new theater and wants to see something that is like in the process of being created, if you've never seen that, it's a really thrilling experience to watch something go from a half-baked stage to a fully realized stage. And so, if you're listening to this, keep your eyes peeled, follow me, make sure you're watching closely because very, very soon I'm going to have some big news and a big announcement to make about my first original musical, which I'm so
Oh, that's
unbelievably
so
excited for people to see.
exciting. I can't wait to see that. And you've got a few weeks left of Burlesque. What would you say to any audiences who are listening who haven't got tickets yet and they've still got a few weeks left to catch the show?
I will say that I've been hearing a lot of people say, I heard a lot of chatter about this. I didn't know whether it was going to be from me. And over and over again, I'm tagged in people saying, one of the best shows that I've seen on the West End in a long time. The energy in that building is electric. It feels like a party. We're having a great time. You will laugh. You will get up and want to dance. You might shed a tear. Um, it's just a really, really, really fun time. And I had difficulty. It's difficult for me to say that because it's impossible for me to have a non-biased opinion. British audiences don't give up standing ovations. They do not. They don't. They're honest, and we have not had a single night that wasn't completely sold out, and a single night without a standing ovation. So, I think it would be a missed opportunity if you're a theater lover or a fan of burlesque, the movie, a fan of burlesque, the art form, for you to not make your way to the Savoy sometime between now and September 6th. We just added a show, a matinee on Tuesday, August 26th. And there's a lot of tickets available because they just went on sale yesterday. So if you
Amazing.
want your choice of your pick of the litter, go get the tickets. And come to the stage door afterwards and say hi. I get out very quickly, but I love to meet people at the stage door. I want to know what you think. And again, I think that theater is meant to be experienced live. It's not meant to be experienced via someone else via TikTok, Instagram, Reddit,
No,
social media. So
no
if you're curious about the
bootlegs.
show, get your tickets, come there, watch it, and see for yourself what all the talk is about.
Well, that's a great note to end on, and congratulations on the incredible show that you've created in such a short time. It's been so lovely to chat to you as well, Todrick.
Thank you.